Hi everyone, this is Jeff of TAOFLEDERMAUS. Today we have something really cool and a little bit rare to show you today. These are Russian shotgun shells. It says hunting cartridge with metallic case on there. They are 2 3/4 inch shells loaded with 1 1/4 ounce of shot T. Now as I show you this box, try to figure out when it was made. You'll notice that the box is stapled together rather than glued, and there's certain bits of information in both Russian and English on it, and I have no idea what this says. One thing I thought was interesting is on American ammo boxes there's paragraphs of safety warnings, and the only one we see here is using modern firearms in good condition only. Now you probably heard of birdshot and buckshot, but what is shot T or T-shot? Inside our shells are dozens of these 20 caliber or about 5mm balls that are probably made out of steel, possibly copper plated steel, so they're like oversized BBs. And before I get any further, I want to thank Thor, who is an instructor at Fireline Shooting and Training Center in Wisconsin. Now he found this old rare box of shells somewhere and thought it would be really interesting to send it to us so that we could share it with our viewers. Thank you, Thor. Now Thor was originally going to send us the entire 30 round box, but I said just send us like 8, that'll be enough to demonstrate these things, and you keep the rest. The box that he sent was just kind of a bonus. I didn't expect him to send that. Well, let's take the shells out of the box and have a look and see what we got here. Now, even though these look like all brass or all copper shells, what they are steel shells with a copper wash on it. The Russians love their steel cased ammo. They even made 22 in steel case. You'll notice that the shells are not crimped in any way, no roll crimp or star crimp. They just put a plastic plug in the opening there. Some of them are a little crooked, that's alright, but they're just glued in there. Now, looking at the head stamp, we can see that these are made in 1992, not 1952 like I would have thought by just looking at the box. So the shells are about 30 years old, and that may seem like a long time ago if you were born after 1992, or you may be old enough to remember 1992 and you're wondering, where did the time go? Now this stamping here, I believe, indicates that we have a Berdan primer. Another thing that the Russians really love, they love their Berdan primers. These shells actually measure 2 3/4 inches long from nose to tail, and this is an American 2 3/4 inch shell. So why does this thing look like some kind of a 3.5 inch Magnum? Apparently, just to make things confusing for everyone, shells aren't measured by their finished length, but how long the hole was before it was crimped. Thanks. After the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, Russia began exporting ammo and guns to the United States in huge numbers. This box of shotgun shells is part of that history. Now let's get out and test them and see if they still function after 30 years.
Hey, what's up everybody? I'm Mike, helping out today, and today we're going to shoot this vintage Russian steel case shell and see how it'll perform and see if it'll even work. Wow.
Well, good news, the shell went off and Mike's shot was right on target. Now this shotgun will cycle federal target loads, birdshot and stuff like that perfectly fine all day long. But we didn't have quite enough power to push that bolt all the way back to eject that case.
As you can see here, it looks like there's about a 12-inch radius from where it impacted, and looks like about 20 plus shots in that thing.
We did recover a bunch of them too.
We recovered quite a bit, and we'll see what they're made out of. They're lead.
Yeah, they were supposed to be steel, or especially a T-shot. T-shot usually is steel shot. This is probably is 20 caliber or 5mm, but is made out of lead. I was expecting steel shot, especially from the Russians.
So for this shot, we're going to use a Benelli Nova with a full choke instead of the modified choke that we used on the last one, and see if it tightens up the pattern a bit.
Mike left it in the chamber for about 10 seconds in case he had a hang fire, a delayed ignition. And looking at the primer, you can see that we had a pretty good primer strike, just no ignition.
Huh. Wow. Wow.
Another primer strike, another no-go. Bernard primers, I tell you.
Well, we're gonna go back to the Stoker with the full choke this time. We had a couple bad primer strikes, and so we're gonna see, is it the shotgun or is the primer just that bad? Nope.
It looks like a pretty good primer strike to me. That's 2 strikes on that. 2 strikes and you're out. Oh,
It was delayed.
that was a delayed shot.
Felt like I was shooting out of a musket there for a second.
Yeah, exactly.
In this test, we had a very slight but noticeable delayed ignition, and overall it was just a very weak shot. And finally, for using a full choke at only 7 yards, that's a pretty big pattern. But still, that critter would have been dead.
We're about to see how this shoots against a wild boar, so we'll see what happens.
If it even goes off.
No! No!
Dang it. Okay, this is our last one we brought with us. So far, half of them haven't worked. We got a 50-50 chance if this one will even function. I thought all of them are gonna work, but nope.
All right.
Yay!
Oh, so much blood. Oh my gosh, would you look at that?
Fortunately, the last one lit off, but again, we have pretty low velocity and relatively little energy actually hitting the target. I couldn't find any velocity data regarding these shells, but I imagine back in the day when they maybe functioned a little bit better, the velocity was substantially higher than this.
Well, we learned that you have a 50% chance of success with these.
We also learned that these do indeed have a Berdan primer, and the primers definitely seem to be the Achilles heel for the functionality of these shells. Of all the old ammo tests that we've done, this was the worst of the bunch. We've tested some old .22 long rifle ammo from the 1930s that functioned very well. We also tested some 12 gauge ammo from the 1980s that still functioned but had lost a little bit of its velocity. We've yet to see ammo become more potent the older it gets. And even the 16-inch guns on the Iowa-class battleships had this same issue. The powder for those was manufactured for World War II, but there was so much left over they used it all the way up to the 1990s. The Navy did extensive studies on this and did find that the powder did degrade over the decades. By the 1980s, the velocity had dropped by about 30 feet per second. That may not seem like a lot, but when you're shooting over 20 miles, that can make the difference between hitting the target and missing it. In the case of our Russian shotgun shells, we had both loss of velocity and complete loss of reliability. Still, I hope you enjoyed the video.
Very interesting, and thank you, Mike, for coming out here and helping us.
You're welcome, it's a pleasure.
Yeah, hopefully everyone in the comment section doesn't rag on you for whatever reason.
Go easy. It's my first time.
Yeah, nice guy, nice guy. Be nice to him. We want him to come back, you know?